Is BCAT available? If we can get a thumbs up from the door. Oh, we're good to go. Okay.
You're the one.
Thank you.
Long meeting.
Oh, yeah. I knew you have. I knew this was gonna be long. I was ready for it. Keep going.
We are reconvening in our workshop format. We have a number of items to work through tonight, the last of which will be the downtown parking question. Instead, we're going to begin with something absolutely delightful. By way of introduction, Elena Imbach, originally Elena Ryan, a favorite daughter of the city of Poulsbo who graduated high school with my son's class, Vikings 2001. Elena, we're delighted to have you here tonight.
Red mic right on. Okay, perfect. Let me see if I can manage all my tech. All right. Test. Sure. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much for having me here tonight. I hope that I can be a shining ray of sunshine on a otherwise very heavy meeting for you tonight. I'm delighted to be here to talk about entrepreneurship, which I know feels a little different, I guess, than other topics you're taking on. Not affordable housing, it's not parking, but I think it's very critical to the way that we live and work and experience this city. So I'm happy to be here. I think first things first, I want to clarify a couple of things. I am not here to ask for money. I'm not here to promote my business. I'm not here to promote any other business. I'm not here with a hairy problem for you to solve. And I'm certainly not here to compete with or displace any other organization here in our community who's doing tremendous work. Like many of you, I wear multiple hats. So I think in terms of ground setting, it's helpful to understand that here tonight, I'm really here in my role as executive director of Matchstick Lab. Some of you may be familiar with Matchstick Lab, some of you may not. The short and sweet history of it, it was born out of Vibe Coworks. So Vibe Coworks, yes, is my business. We never anticipated that Matchstick Lab would come to be a thing. But what happened when we started gathering people in a place, we recognized that there was a need that could not be filled by a for-profit organization. So we pursued at the moment, we are currently being incubated as a fiscally sponsored project of the Kitsap Community Foundation as a 501c3. We dream of the day when we will be able to go out and establish our own 501c3, but we're not quite there yet in terms of funding and stability to be able to do that. So for right now, this is a really fantastic partnership that's allowing us to deliver some quality stuff for the community. I would emphasize that the work that we do is only possible by community partnerships. So we work very, very closely with many entities and organizations across the whole of the region. And we view the work that we're doing as really being critical to our economic development ecosystem. So against that background, I'm here because we have a couple of things we're celebrating that if it's not on your radar already, it really should be. Poulsbo has been put on the map recently by two very big things that we've been a part of. One that has come by way of national recognition and one that has come by way of global recognition. So those two pieces on the national side, some of you may be familiar with the SBA's Growth Accelerator Fund competition. Matchstick Lab applied for it this year. SBA awarded $5.7 million through the program this year, with the prioritization going to American innovation. This was the first year that they included a category that they called capital formation. Let's see. So they define capital formation as expanding investment access for entrepreneurs and small businesses during the stages of business formation and business growth. There's a whole bunch of categories underneath that. Matchstick Lab won. We are the only organization in the state of Washington that received this award, and we're one of only 33 in the country that received this award. So it's something we're very proud of, and I think that the city of Poulsbo should be very proud of it, and I'm looking forward to seeing how we can leverage that award in meaningful ways for the community.
I had the advantage at a Rotary Club meeting where Elena was honored. I know Connor was in the audience from the Rotary Club, but this is akin to like a genius grant, right? Where you're allowed to take this money now and structure it to a larger purpose as you see fit, where SBA stands back to get out of their way. Can you elaborate just a little for my colleagues?
So this was something I've learned in the process of applying for this. We learned after we received it, actually, that this was a prize not a grant and not an award. So they, of course, wish and hope that you will pursue the direction that you applied for when you submitted for it. But there was no formal contract. There are reporting and check-ins, and we have our 6-month check-in with them coming up in April. But they have given us full and complete flexibility to adapt the work and program and funds to whatever way we see as best serving the community. So it's a very big deal. So, yay. Thank you. The second piece that we're celebrating this month in particular is global recognition that has come by the way of Creative Mornings. So Creative Mornings is their definition, the world's largest face-to-face creative community with a monthly breakfast lecture series that's free and open to all. It currently exists in 252 cities and 70 countries around the world. It is all free. And in 2023, we encouraged one of our Vibe members, Rachel Studebaker of Studebaker Design Co., to put in to formally become a formal chapter of Creative Mornings. It's a very rigorous process. It is not easy. She succeeded in getting that designation. They only give it to cities. We tried to get it for Kitsap. They said, no, it has to be city affiliated. So it is Creative Mornings Poulsbo. And this year, the Poulsbo team submitted, so the way that it works, each month, there's a single word theme that is designated for the entire world. So all 252 chapters do a speaker series on a single word, and those words are chosen by local chapters. So this year, for April, the Poulsbo chapter is one of 12 chapters whose theme was chosen to be represented globally. So for April, worldwide, the theme is Ember. And we're doing a special edition version of it. Usually it's held at Vibe, but this year it will be held at the Poulsbo waterfront. The guest speaker will be the Vikings, and we'll be doing a whole celebration about Ember and what that means to us. So to have Poulsbo represented across the world in all of these countries is also a very big deal. So I think it's obvious something really big is happening here. Something great is happening here. We see entrepreneurship growing. We see creativity scaling. We see how strong the community has become when they've had a place to gather, they've had a place to come together and cross ideas. And we see that collaboration across many of our different entities, organizations, support organizations, entities for these folks is working. What is also amazing is that Poulsbo has already answered the question of how do we support this? Through your comprehensive plan, you've already addressed and prioritize supporting entrepreneurship, promoting flexible workspaces, fostering innovation, and encouraging public-private partnerships. And I think that meshing of what's happening and what's growing and where the city is focusing its vision is worthy of celebration and worthy of building on further as we move forward. What we know is that the momentum that we're seeing also needs infrastructure. I think Joey was talking about it earlier. We see people starting and buying businesses. Spaces for connection are emerging. We see the momentum. We also know that access to capital is limited. The support can be very fragmented, and that for entrepreneurs and small business owners trying to succeed in our community, those pathways of where to find all the things are often unclear or missing. And we know that that's something that we can change. The foundation for this infrastructure is already in place. All here in Poulsbo, we have, through Vibe, we have a place, there's space, there's a daily hub for people to come together. We have Matchstick Lab that is providing programming, all free. There's education, the ecosystem, the referrals out to other community partners is there. And we have the regional partners who are providing advising, support, and additional pipeline against that whole kind of cradle to grave experience of business ownership. I wanted to share one very real example of the demand that we're seeing and the constraint. You may or may not know the Western Washington University Small Business Development Center does one-on-one advising on a weekly basis at Vibe in the Matchstick Lab office, which is sponsored by Kitsap Bank, funded by Kitsap Bank. They do a phenomenal job. In 2025, they've supported almost 230 businesses. 20% of their clients are located here in Poulsbo. And the calculations that they've given me, they've supported 355 jobs in 2025. And they've noted what we've also noted, that there's a big surge in interest recently in both buying and selling existing businesses. So we talk a lot about starting new businesses, but we're really at this critical point of transitions between existing businesses as well.
Add, Elena, that the city of Poulsbo is a founding investor in the Small Business Development Center for Western Washington University, alongside Kitsap Bank at that time with Tony George, as well as a founding partner in the Kitsap Economic Development Alliance. So we're right there with you.
Yeah. One of the things we're concerned about, it's both exciting and concerning, is the number of people who are going in for this advising is higher than it's ever been since the center was established. And the amount of advising available due to staffing is, it is low. They're down an advisor. So with the advising level that they have, they're struggling to be able to meet the needs of the companies that are coming through there.
Would you say the numbers then that they're supporting, is that representing capacity? Like, could they support more folks if they came through the door? Or are they basically supporting as many as they could?
They are supporting as many as they possibly can. They would love to be supporting more, but they cannot do it with their current staffing levels. And that's one thing we're looking at even with our programming. Oftentimes businesses will go to the banks and be looking to get a loan. They'll present their financial projections and the bank will say, hey, your financial projections aren't quite ready. Go over to the SBDC and let them help you put these projections together and then come back to us. There's often this cycle. So if the SBDC isn't able to support everyone with those financial projections, the conversations we're having now is like, well, what do we do with everyone else that needs it, right? And is there a potential that through programming we're doing at Matchstick Lab, there could be a funnel that you get some sort of certification if you've completed this whole program, that then you're kind of bank ready? We don't know. We're trying to figure out ways of solving that. What we do know is what this looks like at the ecosystem level. So just from the Matchstick Lab side, we're, of course, the programs, the partnerships, the people working together. Matchstick Lab, as it exists today, I would say is about 3 years old. It's kind of a funny one since we are fiscally sponsored and like when that kind of break off happened. But we've run 48 entrepreneurs specifically through an accelerator program. We've engaged nearly 200 business owners and partners. We've been very active in the last 2 years in putting on a for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs annual summit that we call the Firebrand Unconference. We're working on putting together roundtables all having to do with capital, the dollar side of things. And we have a very strong, currently 3-year partnership with the Navy as part of the regional ecosystem. And I think across all of the partners that we're working with on this, we all agree on the gap. So there's very high demand. The community is there. The ecosystem is growing. We have this emerging capacity, but we continue to have gaps in coordination, in data, in the support that's available to folks across the whole pipeline, and money, the capital piece of it. The work is happening, but it's not fully connected. It's not fully resourced, and it's not built yet to sustain the people who are doing it. The way that I look at it, I think this really is an amazing moment of opportunity for Poulsbo. We have this national recognition, and with that national recognition, I think comes new access to funding and partnerships through the SBA award. They've put us actually in cohorts with the other awardees across the country where we're getting to learn from them as well. We have this global visibility where Poulsbo is being talked about all across the world this month. We have a lot of growing local momentum with the entrepreneurs and small businesses in our region. And we have a clear commitment from the city of Poulsbo to economic development in your comprehensive plan. And I think when I look at this, I see that Poulsbo has really emerged as a center for entrepreneurship and innovation in our region. So much of this is centralized here, even as the work, certainly as we Matchstick Lab are doing, extends to the whole county and beyond. So I look at this and I think, gosh, how can we build what comes next? How can we do this together? As I said, I'm not coming asking for money. I don't have a formal proposal for you, but in my kind of blue sky thinking, I look at this and say, how can we leverage the national recognition that we've received to open doors to additional funding, to partnerships, to regional opportunities? How can we stay connected with the city as funding and partnership opportunities emerge? especially to the extent that the city may be uniquely positioned to access doors that we cannot. I would love to explore how this work supports the city's economic development goals. I'd love to see the city helping us elevate and celebrating this work within the community. How can we get the word out? How can we tell people how phenomenal it is that we have this Creative Mornings thing happening downtown this month, that we've received this award? How can we continue positioning Poulsbo as a leader in this work regionally, and perhaps beyond as well? I think, just to conclude, I think Poulsbo has a lot to celebrate. I think there's a real opportunity to lead, and I'd love to continue the conversation about what we can build next together. I'd love to open the floor for any questions.
Congratulations, Elena. You've worked hard on this personally. You've kept your shoulder to the wheel and look where it's taking you. Is any of this going to be shared tomorrow at the Kitsap Economic Development Alliance Annual Economic Forum?
Not that I'm aware of.
Huh.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, right there.
I know Joe will be talking about some of the programmatic work we've done on the accelerators with Matchstick Lab. That for sure I know will be mentioned. Beyond that, I'm not certain what's on the agenda.
And last question, then I'm sure my colleagues have questions. You mentioned the Ember and waterfront. Is there a specific date, time that the council can engage if they're able to?
So normally, Creative Mornings is always the second Friday of the month at Vibe at 7:30 in the morning. That is not the case this month. We changed it so that we could be at the waterfront. So this month, for the month of April, it is Friday, April 24th at 7:30 in the morning. And it is a bring your own cup sort of affair. So there will be coffee and some sort of breakfast pastries there, but the request is that you bring your own mug, that people have a lot of fun with that.
And if any of us are able to make that and we walk there, what might we expect to see, hear, or experience?
So typically the way that it happens, the first half hour is usually kind of mix and mingling, get to know your neighbors, wake up with everyone, grab your coffee. 7 o'clock, the formal program kicks off. There's always kind of a standard format of sponsor recognition. There's a manifesto that's read each month. And then the floor is given to that month's speaker. And I am blanking on the speaker's name this month. Joshua Washburn. Thank you, Algelin. So Joshua will be speaking on the topic of Ember, and Joshua has the opportunity to interpret that word in any way he chooses. So he'll have 20 minutes to do that. They leave another 20 minutes for community conversation, discussion, and then everyone heads off for their day.
I will commit to being there by 8 a.m. I will steal away from Rotary at the Sons of Norway. So, and I will come with coffee.
We're trying to convince the Rotarians to move the meeting down there for the day.
And I just want to remark to my colleagues, we debated last year the funding or not for SBDC. We even debated KETA. I think this is an affirmation. Rick, you spoke very well to SBDC, that it's making an impact and seems to be very well centered in Poulsbo from what Elena is sharing, not Bremerton or Port Orchard, not to their detriment, just where the activity is taking place.
So my understanding, you'll need to speak with them. My understanding is they do a very good job of canvassing the full of the county. But they have Tuesdays as their designated day that they are at Vibe all day on Tuesdays in that office. And they're usually full doing the one-on-one consultations every Tuesday.
So we're also members of KETA. Is there anything more KETA can be doing? We can prompt them to do their role in supporting you since we're strong members.
KETA has been a phenomenal partner to all of our work with Matchstick Lab. We very much have them to credit for acquiring the funding that allowed us to do the micro business accelerator that we've done for the last 3 years. This year, that line of funding was not available, so we were not able to run that program. But KETA took the initiative to go out and pursue alternative funding that is going to allow us to run a condensed version of that at the end of September, where we'll be doing an intensive accelerator weekend. So it'll be a Friday to Sunday format that we're going to kind of take the best pieces out of the longer accelerator and put it into that smaller format. So we're very grateful for their partnership, their willingness to dig in with us, not just showing up and put a logo on something, but really go out and help us secure the funding to make it possible for us to deliver.
Anything else from my colleagues? Looking around the table. Well, Rick, go ahead.
Okay. I had just a couple questions. Joey had mentioned earlier the program had kids, and so I didn't know age group for that. How much, if you're reaching out to like the high schools, for, you know, kids that are kind of coming up to graduation and maybe have a different plan about after graduation, not the standard, and might be interested in something like that, help figuring out their own plan forward. I wondered if you're seeing a lot of interests or any interest with, you know, we have our also big effort with the expansion at OC and the Allied Health Center and Poulsbo kind of becoming a healthcare center. If you're seeing any interest in folks, you know, ancillary services around that maybe want to come in and look at the area. And I just wonder if you could expand a little more. You said you have a strong relationship with the Navy, just what that looks like.
Yeah. See if I can remember all these questions in order. I might have to come back to you. High scale healthcare. Okay. So with on the youth side, we have not ventured into that realm much yet, which is partly why we're so excited about what Joey is putting together. There's been a lot of requests for it. And I've been particularly in May, actually, I've been invited to speak at the Flywheel Investment Conference in Wenatchee, which if anyone has the opportunity to go, they've done a phenomenal job of centering the Wenatchee Valley region as a place for people to go and build things. And they've done a very fantastic job of integrating in their local community college and high school students as part of that. So they do a pitch competition with the youth ahead of the main conference, and then they have the youth come and attend the adult portion of the pitch competition. And so that's something that people have seen, people have asked for here. I would love to see that happen. We just haven't gotten there yet. We're looking to support Joey in any way we can, even in any way we can across the board, period.
Yeah, just two of the strong programs at North Kitsap are culinary and agriculture. So those are areas that, you know, said small business.
Yeah.
Kids that want to get off and do or support maybe a family business, but the strong 4-year agriculture track that was put into place about 5 or 6 years, well, more than that now, 6 years ago, where they can do 4 straight years of high school on, and, you know, tied in with future farmers and all that. And then the culinary program is so
one of the so the micro business accelerator that we've been running has been industry agnostic. But one of the things we've talked about is, man, it would be amazing if we could niche that down in some ways. And we've had specific requests coming from the farm-based businesses saying, hey, we know how to run our farm. We know what we're doing here in Kitsap for food production, but we need help on the business side in the same way that these other sectors do. And they've actually requested that we potentially look at offering an accelerator just for farm-based businesses. We haven't had the funding to be able to do that, but that is something that has come up, not just for youth, but across the board.
Ellie Ryder runs that program at the high school. So
Okay, super.
We're very proud of you, Elena. We're very glad you chose to abandon Manhattan and come back to Poulsbo and bring your special magic here.
I was actually want to hear the healthcare side.
Yeah, and you will see me on April 24th and perhaps joined by a colleague or two.
Amazing. Do you want me to go ahead and answer the last 2 questions?
Yeah, please.
On the healthcare side of things, we have not necessarily seen direct adjacencies in the programs that we're doing currently. However, it has been flagged to me recently, the latest I'm going to blank on the name. Life Sciences Washington Conference. They do a report every year of the life sciences companies that are here in the region. And Kitsap County was one of the highest ranking counties for life sciences companies that are based here in Kitsap County. And it's not something that I've heard people talking about. And it's data that I kind of pulled out and put aside. And I was like, we have to figure out who these startup companies are and where they are in the county, because we would love to be working with them. We would love to be building these bridges across to the OC programs and some of the others. And one of the things that often comes up in conversations in our space is like, hey, we've got people who know how to build things, but they need a problem to solve for. And we've got people that have these lists of problems. So if we could somehow do this matchmaking between saying, you know, maybe it's the city, maybe it's OC, I don't know, I've got this problem. Hey, entrepreneurship minded person, figure out a solution to this. We'd love to be in a position to do that sort of matchmaking. Lastly, on the Navy question, so Matchstick Lab has been a contracted partner of the Northwest Tech Bridge for the last 3 years. The Northwest Tech Bridge, the Keyport division of it's all changed recently because Naval X was recently dissolved. But Keyport was one of the original 4 tech bridges that was stood up nationally. There was until very recently 18 of them. And their purpose was to say, hey, the Navy, the Department of Defense needs innovators and needs technology to solve the problems that we're up against. We're not going to get there fast enough within the government. We need to find people who are developing these solutions on the private sector side and understand what they're doing and try to fast track them so that they can develop that solution fast enough for us to be able to employ it where we need in the Department of Defense. So we've been playing that partnership role and kind of helping them do some of that problem scouting. They'll typically come up with what they call a problem statement. And then we'll go out with them and be like, okay, what companies are in the region that are developing solutions to that? And then we're doing some tech showcases and things to that end. So yeah, it's very cool.
I'm looking at the Creative Mornings Poulsbo page, and it is well done, easy to navigate. I have great information on it. Is it kind of like a networking connection platform along with some opportunities to engage? Because I'm seeing that there is on the page, it has also looks like there's information on jobs or if there are any open. So how is that a little different from something like LinkedIn? I'm just curious. Or is it it's more localized, I'm assuming?
I can speak to it about this much.
Okay.
The Creative Mornings headquarters, as they call it, is based out of New York City. And they operate all of the infrastructure, including the website. So each local chapter has to, they've got certain standards that we have to meet in terms of what materials we're putting on there, the photography, the videography, the registration pages, all of that has to be input into their platform. I don't know on the jobs specifically that maybe that they're putting out national jobs. I'm not sure how localized those are. But when you register, so it is free to attend, but you are required to register typically because we have a capacity limit in the space. And when you do so, it invites you or maybe requires you to put in a little bit of a profile for yourself. So there's an opportunity to put a photo, answer a couple fun questions about you. And I think that in many ways does facilitate the networking piece of it. I look at it every month to see who's going. And you have a little bit of a question prompt as an icebreaker that I can walk up and say, hey, Bobby Joe, I saw that you, whatever, enjoy long walks on the beach. Me too. And it's a fun way to just get to know some new people. And we do have a lot of people who come to it because they participated in Creative Mornings events in other cities. And so they're brand new to this area. They're brand new to Poulsbo. They don't know anyone here yet, but they're like, I met a lot of really cool people at the Creative Mornings Austin chapter, and I'm hoping for the same here.
Again, thank you, Elena.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate
And
it.
I'll be engaging with you. And we're going to move on then. Michael Bateman on the Washington State Department of Transportation Pedestrian Bicycle Detour Agreement. And this has to do with the presentation we had on fish barrier removal at the top of the year with Department of Transportation.
Let's see here. Where's my presentation? And let's take this to slideshow. Oh, nope, I can't do that quite yet. Need to share first. Share and then slideshow. You can try it. Oh, we got to share from Zoom. Gotcha. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Well, I can't follow that bright, sparkly presentation. This is nothing like that, but I can promise to attempt to be very quick and get you guys on the way to the remainder of your very busy evening. So as you mentioned, Ed, WashDOT came and made a presentation to you guys on the fish passage barrier project that they're doing. They're requesting a bicycle and pedestrian detour agreement with the city. As you know, just a quick recap, the project is, this particular project that is driving this detour agreement is 2 fish passage barriers that are on Bond Road, not too far away from Ladybug Lane. They are difficult, they are deep, they're important, and it's going to be impactful, as we know. But the WashDOT is doing a great job of soaking up all of the criticism and guidance that we have offered to them, and they've done a great job of responding to what we've said, saying, "Hey, this is going to be tough. What can you do to help?" They're going to have Bond Road closed for about 30 days. When they first came to us, they were expecting more like 60, and we were like, "Yeah, no. How about let's see what we can do to narrow that down." Their official vehicle detour is going around through Port Gamble. We know that all of us locals are not going to take the official detour, and I actually think that's probably what we want to happen anyway. There's about 20,000 cars a day on Bond Road. There's about 20,000 cars a day on Highway 3. So doubling the traffic on a road that's already kind of having issues is not what we really want to happen. So, but their official detour out through the county for cars, they're requesting an official detour through Poulsbo for bikes and pets. Oh, wow, that's the end of my, I'll go back. That's the end of that presentation. So there was a copy of the agreement in the packet. I'm happy to go over questions about any of it. The agreement has been vetted through the city attorney's office, and she has no issues with us signing the agreement. One of the things I'll point out to you guys, as we know, we're all concerned about, hey, what's this going to do? How's this going to affect our roadway network? There is, as part of any of these detour agreements, there is a pre-project walk or drive or inspection of the route. And we will take pictures and all. And of course, bicycles and pedestrians are not going to beat up our roads, right? But, and this is officially the bike ped agreement. However, we will, of course, being Poulsbo Engineering, we will be taking before photos with WashDOT. We'll be taking before traffic counts. We have a pretty good handle already on what our
with council, they decided, or legal counsel, not city council, decided that it was better to restate or redo the lease. And from that point, we started with the body of the prior lease that was developed in 2012, but updated the terms related to the rental amount. And I think that the one thing, yeah, I would just open it up for any questions that you might have.
Council, questions for Rob? Mr. McFett.
Thank you, Mayor. Rob, I did review the lease. I appreciated the due diligence that's been done. Refresh my memory, the current lease amount is 800 per month, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, all right. I like the terms of the lease. I think it's an increase. It helps provide, I think, value to our taxpayers and allows Coffee Oasis to continue operating. I think we all know that location has its challenges from sight lines to occasional flooding, and not to mention the fact that there's a pretty good chance that the city may end up having to take that house for some alignment work of that intersection and stormwater improvements, et cetera, in the future. I value the work that Coffee Oasis provides to the community. I'm not sure who would replace the work that they do. And so I am in favor of moving forward with a new lease with that organization at these terms.
Council. I don't think there's any denying that in working with youth in the way they do is a public benefit to this community and to the north end. And as Mr. McFay just suggested, if Coffee Oasis wasn't there, problematic, who else would be doing it? And so I just want to note that also, Rob, for the record.
Yeah, just everything Gary said. I know we talked about this last time, and short term, we needed a solution. Maybe long term, a different location is a better solution for them, but that's something they need to figure out. And then you mentioned Emily looked at this, I assume. Sure. Emily looked at it, vetted it. All the lawyer pieces are appropriate and correct, and we're covered and we're good there. So, yeah.
I propose it goes to the consent agenda.
Yes.
Any other questions? Business agenda or consent agenda?
Consent.
I just,
We already, we were on.
Thank you.
And we're moving on to fireworks ordinance update. This is a language correction and update. Rhiannon Fernandez, our city clerk.
So we banned fireworks at the end of last year. And when we did that, we did have some language that Councilmember Newell brought up that really needed to be taken out. It was regarding our fireworks stands. So we passed it with the idea that I'd come back with this with revisions. I did work with the city attorney, with our deputy city clerk, with Councilmember Newell, and we've made the recommended changes to get the fireworks stand language out, to also update who is actually approving to our current processes, not old processes when it was the fire chief. And then we took out some language regarding insurance because we just want to make it reflect what's in the special events permit. We also updated the timeline we needed to approve the permit from 10 days to 90 days. And she updated the fine section. So do you have any questions at this point, or would you like to move it forward to consent on April 15th?
Questions for Rhiannon?
no,
No.
I was
All right.
agreeing with consent agenda.
Do I see a thumbs up then on proposed language? We're good.
All right. Thank you.
Rhiannon, well done.
Let's get to
Consent
parking.
agenda.
Good night.
I don't think there's anything else to come before us. I'm kidding.
April Fools.
April Fools. Next will be downtown parking discussion continued, and this will be Heather Wright and Rob Gelder.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, members of the public. For those tuning in, if it's not obvious, this council deeply cares about this matter. as does leadership team that has been heading this project over the last few years. This is a very important topic, and I want to thank all the council members that have reached out to me since our last discussion in particular. I know that we've all been digging in the details and really trying to figure out what fits best for Poulsbo. And so with that, I'm going to begin my presentation. There are some changes to the presentation from what was in the packet, and I will highlight those as I move through the presentation tonight.
Heather, for quick
Yes.
clarification, you mean what was originally sent in the packet or what's currently online differs from your presentation?
What was currently in the packet
Okay,
has changed, and you will see it tonight in the
Okay.
presentation.
thank you.
Thank you. Is it up? Oh, perfect. Excuse me. That's the button I was looking for. Thank you. So to ground us in this endeavor that we've been pursuing and the vision for the changes that are proposed is we have a limited amount of parking spaces available within our system. About half of the 1,200 spaces that we have are owned by our city, and the remainder are privately owned. As our council spoke earlier, we want to support our downtown businesses, and we want to pursue that through the development of employee parking and improved signage. And with those efforts, we need to have enforcement to ensure that we do have the turnover within our system so that spaces are available for our customers and for our visitors and for employees. And the next step within this cycle is to implement paid parking with the vision of building and increasing capacity, because we do have a flat number of spaces. And as we've stated, we are a growing city. We're projected to grow by 5,500. And we've also been throwing around our visitor numbers. And I want to clarify something. This is based on the Placer AI data that we've been looking at. And we've been looking at our visitors as counting one time each person visits the system and not counting each individual visit. And there's a difference there. So our visitors is those that come to visit and treated them. If I come 5 times, I'm treated as one visitor. And according to Placer AI, which is different than what we've been seeing from Visit Kitsap, the number is 334,000 in 2021 and 448,000 in 2025. But the visits, so meaning those people come multiple times, it's an average of 3 visits, is 1 to 1.1 million annually. So I just want to share that because there's a difference in the numbers, and we have a small amount, and this is just in our downtown enforcement area. And this is the small amount that we're talking about regulating. We only have a really small percentage we're looking at controlling. As we mentioned earlier, those changes were made in 2025 with the passage of Resolution 2025-03. I won't repeat what's happened, but we're talking tonight about paid parking and specifically. And then this is an updated graphic of all the changes. This was presented at our last meeting, but it captures the changes that have been made downtown and where we are to date. So this is where we're going to focus our energy tonight, is a recap, first of all, of what happened at our last meeting, because we weren't able to complete that discussion. And I wanted to make it clear to those listening that the majority of council agreed with implementing paid parking this summer with support of the resolution that was passed, and specifically, if possible, by June 1st of this summer. There was a range of feedback with a heavy focus on what is success in this system. We've talked about the vision, which is to build capacity, but what else can we do if there is revenue generated through this system? What is success? Is that providing parking through a garage, potentially built at a future date? Is it improving our existing bus routes or creating a shuttle service? Is it cost recovery of our current system, knowing that enforcement is costing us about $300,000, maybe more a year, because we haven't had a full year of enforcement? So what is success? And that could help frame our discussion this evening on which revenue model the council wants to support. There was a lot of mention about the number of days, and there wasn't consensus, but it ranged from Thursday to Sunday. The first time we heard that was at the last meeting, and there was also repeated interest in having 7 days of paid parking. Grace was mentioned again, and focusing on days rather than hours was a little bit more of consensus, but the range was between 2 hours of grace per day to no daily grace to multiple days. And then the cost ranged from $1 the wintertime, $3 in the summer, and there was also a preference for exploring dynamic pricing. And then for employee parking, there was a discussion because right now employee parking is free. Do we continue to charge nothing, or do we charge a dollar amount? So all of these ideas were discussed internally with our team, and I'll share with you all some of the things that we culminated on, and then I'll present the options. But I wanted to revisit what success has been memorialized and the resolution that was passed by our council. And the first 3 items we are in process of completing, and that is management of enforcement, signage, which there'll be more signs to be added to our system, and the employee parking program has been launched, but it could be further refined and potentially increased. But specifically, what success can mean would be to increase public safety. At the time this was added, this was just I understood it to be more like boots on the ground because there was an event that happened in our downtown, and I feel like that was somewhat of the focus at the time. And then specifically about creating capacity and looking at researching, designing, and building a parking solution. So what could that be? We've talked about funding a garage. That was actually included in one of our earlier reports from Walker Consultants. And that is a very hefty financial lift for our city. The estimated cost, which we know is going to increase every year, is somewhere between 9 to 18 million, looking at our King Olaf site as a potential since it's already city-owned property. There is also discussion about a shuttle. This has come up repeatedly in the community, specifically at our HDPA meetings. We've had people come to the council speaking specifically to supporting a shuttle. And as I reminded you in your memo, that this was brought up, I believe, in 2008 when council took on a previous study over 20 years of looking at this parking problem or issue. The shuttle has come up again. And then how do we just create additional capacity that's not costing the city? How do we do that? And that's been through agreements, but we've been able to do that without a cost, but we can't always assume that that's going to continue. So based on all of this feedback, this varied feedback that we heard, staff culminated and said, okay, what might we want to recommend to our council? Previously, council was looking at Anderson Parkway and portions of Front Street and Jensen Street. And we've heard from our community again and again that we need to keep this solution simple, and it needs to be easily expressed to people as we're moving forward with citations. People don't read signs always, and we don't always read all the newsletters and postcards we've sent out to our public. There's still a lot of misunderstanding and misconception about where paid parking could occur. So knowing that, we're recommending that it is limited to a geographically identifiable and describable area, and that would be Anderson Parkway only, and potentially King Olaf parking lot. King Olaf has not been part of the conversation for paid parking, and the reason that staff thought to potentially bring it in is because it is easy to identify, and if we do a seasonal model, it may help fund some of what you might consider to be success in the system. So that was added since our conversation in March. The days of enforcement, there's a recommendation from staff that that is 5 days versus 6 days. Basically, we're recommending a day of grace. We think this would work well from encouraging economic activity in our downtown. It's also easy to communicate. The hours of grace that have been discussed will be really challenging, I think, for us to communicate with our public, and it could cause quite a bit of frustration, especially with reparking. If I get an hour of grace and I choose to park somewhere else, does that mean I get another hour of grace? And if I come back to my vehicle after an hour of grace and I've only been 5 minutes over and now I have a $60 ticket, that might incite quite a bit of people. And so
That's a good quick question.
please,
Is that days of pay parking or
Yes.
days of
days of paid parking. Yes, thank you for clarifying. Days of enforcement is not proposing to change. And then holidays is something we haven't discussed, which we can get to later. It was something that Rob brought up to me that hadn't been added to the conversation, but it's something we also need to be thinking about. And then pricing, staff is recommending that the hourly is $2 to $3. We're not recommending that we go any higher than that or that we do variable pricing. The reason for that is the comparable city that does pricing based on peak events, they actually have a team of staff dedicated to parking. This is Leavenworth. And the variable pricing depends on how much activity they're anticipating. And that would take a lot more staff and resources to manage that system. Yes.
When you say that, are you referring to our staff or Laz's staff?
It could be either, but Laz doesn't have that capability that we're sure of. And I'm speaking specifically to our staff.
So the contract we have with Laz does not give us access to that level of administrative capacity currently.
That's correct. And then staff is recommending that you explore year-round or seasonal. It really depends on which model fits best, but we chose to look at our seasonal, even though our peak visitors aren't necessarily in early April or mid-October. It's in between based on our Placer AI data. We chose with a 6-month mark for seasonal because we thought it'd be easier to communicate and easier to measure. And it provided a larger window for us to get some cost recovery if we went with a seasonal route. So I'm going to go over 8 scenarios that were included in your packet plus 2 more that were requested by council, and they are financial analysis summaries. There's assumptions built into this. We're learning as we've spoken earlier this evening, we're learning from each month of enforcement. We have a baseline guesstimate of revenue from citation, even though we don't want to look at it as revenue, it's fines, but it does feed back into the system. We did get updated numbers today of the fines for March, and it's upward of 11,000. It does include some of the repark. So we did our best guess based on 1 month of data, which is lower than what we've experienced. It's about half of what we experienced in March, but this is based on what we experienced in February. This has an assumption of employee permits at $10, and I want to speak to why staff proposed to land at $10 a month. There was concern that without payment, there may not be an incentive for an employee to remove someone from the employee database, and they can continue to park for free. And we do have a high number of employees. And the recommendation from Walker, what's been floated and discussed in the resolution, was $20 a month. And I know that some council's concerned with any amount, so we thought, let's meet in the middle and do it $10 a month. So that's the recommendation, and that's put into this financial analysis summary. And then as best we know, enforcement cost is $300,000, which is $25,000 a month.
Heather, and
Yes.
the 300,000 enforcement, that assumes we maintain robust enforcement year round, correct?
That's correct, with our third party LAS. Thank you. It doesn't include staff cost. This is just with LAS. Thank you. There's a lot to digest here. I'll just try my best to make it as simple as possible. So the first 5 are Anderson Parkway year-round options. Each scenario includes the days paid, the hourly rate, how many days of grace, and the net revenue. That's from paid parking, citation fines, employee parking, and deduction of enforcement costs for every scenario. The blue are the new requests from council and one correction based on a mistake I made in my calculation, which is the 6-day paid period. I subtracted 500,000 instead of 300. So that number went up from what you all saw in your packet. And then the next bold 3 scenarios are seasonal options that reflect if it was just 6 months out of the year, also just limited to Anderson Parkway. And then the last 2 scenarios are if Anderson and King Olaf were combined.
Doug? So just for clarification, you say net revenue. So let's just take the top one, 500,000. That's net of after we're paying for Laz or someone else. So the actual cost to the community is 800 or 900,000 in that first.
You got it. That's
So-
absolutely correct. And
so
what I
the
did,
total use fee on people using downtown is that's our net. That's not the fees to the users.
The one caveat that I would throw in that might also reduce that a little bit more is depending on whether it's Laz or it's some other vendor, there will be some charge. So that
It's really not so much the number, Rob. It's more that the actual collections is higher than that by a couple 100,000.
correct.
That's a net, not a gross.
that's
all I'm
correct.
trying to make sure
That's
we have.
correct. And it's also one quick thing to clarify. This is assuming a 55 to 85% occupancy for all of these scenarios. So I cut it in the middle and used that to come up with the total of 65%. Whatever that.
Go ahead and continue, Heather. I don't see any other questions.
Okay. I have since sharing these numbers yesterday with council, these updated numbers, there have been some more requests about a grace period rather than a day. I do want to remind council that based on both Placer AI data and the Walker study, the average stay is 1.5 hours. So rather than running all of these scenarios for you again with the reduction of based on grace, I wanted to just share what that would look like as a sum total. So if grace is added into the system between 30 minutes and 2 hours, you can see between a 33% and potentially 100% loss in revenue. That's assuming that no one stays more than 2 hours in the Anderson Parkway or King Wolof, if that's where it's chosen, just based on average. So I just wanted to give everyone those numbers to consider. And then just to kind of hit home again, the potential for, this is a staff recommendation for council to consider. Since we have projects that are going to be impacting our parking in our downtown, specifically 3rd Avenue is going to commence next year. And we have Front Street slated for 2028, beginning in 2028-ish. We're going to have further disruptions to our downtown parking. And I heard council say, how can we use this shuttle as a way to connect to Viking Avenue and showcase all that our city has to offer? And it really made me feel more confident about the shuttle service and exploring that ahead of these reductions in our very limited and precious parking. And how this works, we can explore. It could be just during the peak season. It could be year round. And I will admit, I asked my friend ChatGPT to run some scenarios for me and create this beautiful image, which I thought was fantastic. I can't take any credit. I just told it what I was looking for and made some tweaks to make sure the flag was accurately reflected. So what we just estimated based on what is seen in other jurisdictions that offer a shuttle service. These are some ballpark figures of what that may cost. And to put it in context with a parking garage, an estimated parking space is $45,000. So for 3 parking spaces, you could potentially offer a seasonal shuttle 4 days a week, 9 hours a day. So just keep that in mind as we talk about capacity, user experience, and this is going to take quite a bit of time for staff to research, but it's potentially something that the city could choose to implement within the next year ahead of these changes to our downtown and create quick capacity, be an economic engine, and support our neighboring commercial centers.
Question. So I love this idea, but this is also assuming we've secured a parking lot elsewhere for the park and ride, which is going to
Absolutely.
require costs above these estimates.
Potentially, absolutely.
On Viking, yes, but one thought I had is this shuttle, we could offer the bottom part of Parks and Rec, which we talked about as employee parking, as senior center parking. And then this shuttle could take seniors from that lot downtown, because the honest thing is there's nowhere around the senior center to create a parking spaces for the senior center. There's just nothing there. But if this shuttle's running and already going that route, Parks and Rec is perfectly located in the middle for seniors to park, be picked up, dropped off downtown, and reverse on the way back. So it actually solves one, or helps solve one part of the problem along the way of another problem. So
I have a question for the council. It was suggested to me to allow Rob and Heather to finish their presentation and then go once around the table in order before opening it up to general discussion, so we have some organization around this conversation. Are people comfortable with that? So let's get through the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. We're just about finished here, but what the audience just witnessed is these great ideas and actions that have been going on since this conversation started. So what we'll be asking for tonight is for council to decide on the location of paid parking, the number of days they want to have payment of parking, which will then feed into grace. What does that look like? Is it days? Is it hours? What is that hourly rate? Will we be charging for employee parking? And what is success, which could be the most important question for you all to answer in your minds and also out loud, because that could be captured in a resolution, which is the next step based on what comes out of tonight's meeting. And we'd like to summarize that at the end. I know there was concern last time we weren't able to summarize. We're going to do our best to summarize at the end, so you know what we're bringing forth in a resolution. And then we can begin seeking a third-party payment provider, which our city administrator Gelder has already started that process. But before we go there, I just want to say, as we have found with each step in this parking puzzle, we've found more pieces we need to add to the puzzle. And so once we make these decisions, we still need to work with special groups, potentially our seniors. And staff is requesting to have permission to work with finding a solution for them. And we have a couple ideas. Special event parking, that is outside of what we've been offering of the $10 for special events. We may still need to keep that system going even with paid parking, because we may not have enough spaces in paid parking and the hourly may not accommodate the event depending on which event it is. I'm talking about Viking Fest. I'm talking about the New Liberty Bay Festival. When those parking spaces are being utilized, are we going to charge a fee? As you all may know, Jeff is already going to be coming back to have a discussion on this, so staff may be able to return with that. And then streeteries, as that should not be April 15th. That should be May 20th. Special event is, I flipped these. So special event parking will be April 15th and streeteries will be maybe May 20th, early May is the earliest we could do that, because council decided once we implement paid parking, we need to decide if we're going to be increasing and how much of a fee for streeters. So I just wanted to remind you all there's still more policy decisions, but tonight, this is what I'd like for us to focus on. Okay.
Very good. And I'll start with Michael Fitzpatrick. We'll go around the table. let's not interrupt each other. Let's each take a turn. Then we can start a general discussion, I think would be the best organized approach. The reason I sent you all my memo last night was not to interfere with the council process. You know where I'm coming from. I have deep concerns. I'm focused on capacity rather than revenue. But with that said, I and staff will work like hell to implement the decision of the policy of this council.
Quick clarification before we start.
Yeah.
What do you want us to say on this round? You want us
I
to
think
address?
we want to try to
one of
address the
these?
points Heather's delineated. Heather, leave that up on the screen and let's try to a batting order, and let's start with Michael Fitzpatrick.
Could I make a suggestion, Mr. Mayor? Can we, for each one of these points, it would be helpful, I think, to capture more easily to capture sort of the consensus or the majority of direction if we go point by point versus having everybody run down the bullet list and then trying to track all of that. That's more moving parts at once.
I'm fine with that, Rob. Is everybody in agreement with that? We'll
I'm not,
swing one.
I'm not
one-
sure what you're asking.
One
So
ball
first
at a
question
time.
is location of parking, paid parking.
To do a round for each.
Rather than addressing all, Michael, going around the table, taking it point by point. So location of paid parking
I
around.
want to be clear. Do you want us to make comments and arguments, or do you want us to just say points, bullet points, and that's it?
Well, I mean.
Well, Michael, you can say whatever you want. You can't be constrained. This is a suggestion as to an approach.
How about if you have a few introductory comments, go ahead, but then get to
Okay.
these specific.
Gary, can you hit your microphone?
How about if we each, we'll make some introductory remarks, but then take a stab at, I kind of like actually just going down the list per person, but I just think it'd be a lot faster.
Just a 5-second recommendation. I think we should just say like, what are your top 2 choices on this list since it's in front of all of us? And then these include all of these.
That's kind of, yeah, we rank them.
That's a good idea, Mr. Tabor, I think.
Michael, you're up. Good
Well,
luck.
I followed Britt's lead. Last time she had notes that she had taken beforehand, so I tried to make notes, but I'm not sure they're now compatible with the request. But my preferred outcome is not necessarily on that list, and so that's why I'm not entirely sure how to speak to that. So I have some notes here. Let me kind of go through this, and I do have a paragraph of what my preferred parking program would look like so that people can modulate off of that. Before we dive into this, I think it's worth stopping for a minute to just thank our staff for their hard work on this, especially the chief, the city administrator, and the city planner. This has been a long journey, even for some of us who have only been at it for 3 months. So I can only imagine what the journey looks like from your point of view. And I want to make one quick comment for the sake of the public, for whoever's still on the live stream with us. I just want to commend all my colleagues who are sitting around the table with me for your responsiveness to the frustration and concern we've heard from the community. Everyone here has internalized that and tried to demonstrate responsiveness to it. But I especially want to thank Doug Tabor and Britt Livedall for your suggestions at our last meeting about grace periods and price models that showed a lot of that sensitivity. And to many of my colleagues who have sent out emails delineating sensitivity to the concerns we've heard, I just think it's important for the public to hear some of us say, we are listening and we are trying to adjust to your concerns. All right, now to the subject. So I'm a maybe on paid parking. For me, it depends on the details of the program. My vote is here for you all to get, and I hope you get it. I have 2 concerns about the setup here. One of which I think Heather is working to address already. That first concern is I want to make sure we don't overvalue the desirability of our waterfront. Use fees are most effective when the added cost barrier to entry does not significantly impact demand. So I mentioned the Narrows earlier this evening. A toll on the Narrows is a good idea because it's a main artery connecting the peninsula to the rest of Washington state. Commuters, travelers, and business transport depend on that passageway. So adding a toll for maintaining and improving the Narrows does not negatively impact the economic value the Narrows provides. In the high season, our downtown waterfront port and businesses provide sufficient economic value that use fees like paid parking make sense. My concern is that this is not true in the low season. Talking with our businesses during this low season, I've learned that margins are tight, customers are down, the parking lots are wide open. So we do not have the year-round demand to support a single fee structure. I'm not suggesting that we should only have paid parking in the high season, so I would resist the seasonal only options. I think that's too confusing to have an on-off kind of approach to paid parking. Rather, I think we need to have year-round paid parking with a two-tiered price system. One set of flat rate prices in the high season and a lower flat rate set of prices in the low season to acknowledge that drop off in demand. My second concern pertains to the discussion around grace periods. All the scenarios that Heather's laid out here are based around days. I don't think we've given fair consideration to the complimentary half hour or hour approach. The reason I think that is most of the arguments I've heard against this are assuming something like a paid parking session is tied to a parking stall. Whereas I've been understanding it, and I think the technology today supports it, that it's tied to a license plate. So if you have a valid, active, paid parking session tied to a license plate, it's very easy for you to not get charged for that first 30 minutes or that first hour. And then if you repark somewhere else, guess what? You're paying for your full time there because it's tied to your license plate for that day, not what parking stalls you are in. So I do think from an enforcement and practicum standpoint, doing a half hour or an hour complimentary parking solution is still viable. Now, I'm not against doing a 1 day or a 2 day off, but I do think we should give the half hour or the 1 hour more consideration than we have. So here's the paid parking program that I am prepared to vote for. Our final motion does not have to be identical to this to get my support, but I hope it will be comparable. I am in favor of a year-round paid parking program with high season pricing and low season pricing, with 6 days of paid parking and somewhere between 30 minutes to 1 hour of complimentary parking per license plate per day, which dissolves concerns about reparking. It is also my strong preference to leave Front Street as time enforced, not paid parking. And finally, I would prefer that we have more employee exclusive lots for our employees than we currently do. As for the rest of the things on the bullet point, I'm mostly neutral and pretty open-minded on those.
Britt, you ready to go?
Yep. I guess I'll just preface before I go down this list by saying I believe in a hybrid paid model. I'm not going to get hung up on exactly which of these. I mean, I think that we should be able to come to a consensus. So I'm not immovable. As we've heard from the community and recognize that, as Michael pointed out, there are periods of much higher demand and much lower demand. So I am open to a seasonal model, knowing that we could change and become more robust down the road, but we could start more conservatively now. I also understand that it could be confusing. So balancing those things. So location, that's pretty easy for me. I agree with keeping it to the lots only. I do not agree with the King Olaf lot. I think that we have pounded the drum this whole time that we're going to keep 60% of parking free. And part of it from the very beginning was about changing people's behavior, especially those who know where parking is, and changing their behavior and maybe compelling more people to be willing to walk a little further. King Olaf is not that far, but it's further than Anderson Parkway. I would like to keep that free of charge. So for me, it's Anderson Parkway as the location, number of days. And I guess I'll get to the grace, but to me, the grace is in potentially the months out of the year and the days out of the week, and then having those free spots along the street. I still am challenged by a first half hour or hour or more free. I'm not sure that I can get on board with that at this point. But the number of days to pay, I mean, I'm open to 5 or 6, kind of either one. Again, if we started more conservatively at 5, but found there was need, we could build it up.
But not 7.
Not 7, correct. I do think we should have at least 1 day of grace. So I think I covered the timed portion. The rate, yeah. I mean, I've heard some compelling arguments around $3 an hour being what the other lots are charging, the port and the Sea Discovery Center, and that maybe if we keep in line with them, it would help open up that capacity, would become maybe more equivalent anyway. But I've also always felt like $2 or under is psychologically so much easier to deal with. So I guess I can go either way. I could also go for a 3-hour peak and 1 hour non-peak. I mean, I'm flexible with those. And then employee parking, I agree with the $10. I'm one of those who would prefer that we didn't have to charge employees, but I am very concerned about the incentive for employers to properly manage it and not having it become an abused system. So I think $10 is enough to compel the updates, but not horribly burdensome, I hope. I hope that it's obvious we're trying to be sensitive to that. And then success planning. For me, ultimately, as expensive and challenging as it may be, I think that a structure is the ideal way to go. I have come around to understanding that that's just going to be really hard. And if a shuttle helps us see some success sooner, then I support that. I personally don't feel like I would be a shuttle user, but we've heard from a lot of people around the idea of a shuttle, and I'm willing to try it. So yeah, so that's a first step. So I guess that kind of puts me into feeling like our net revenue can be more modest if in the beginning success looks like funding a shuttle program versus funding a parking garage. I'm not trying to wring every last dollar out of the users. I'm trying to get to where people can come down here easily, and so however we can achieve that. So I guess that's kind of puts me at options. I mean, I had ranked them, but again, I'm not like stuck on any of these. But if we went with a seasonal option, my first choice would be the 5-day with 2 days of grace with a net revenue of $350,000. But I'm also open to the year round. If we were anyway, I'll stop there.
Doug Tabor.
You guys, I'm so excited. I have great news for everyone. We did it. And well, a lot of this started with turnover, right? There's terrible turnover. It's really full. That's been alleviated quite a bit. The other amazing news is when I talk to anybody, it seems like we're moving from 100% of Poulsbo being paid parking in front of every house, driveway, everywhere is paid parking. And the good news is it isn't. It's only downtown. It's only this one parking lot. That's amazing. Wow. And it's not 30. Is it not 33%? If we do seasonal and we have 2 days of grace, that's only 11.8% of downtown parking that's paid per year. Because it's not just space, it's time and space, right? Like we show up and we want parking in time, not just in perpetuity. So that's like 90% of the concerns I hear is like, it's only 88% of the parking is free. Like that's a lot of free parking in my opinion. And I'm really happy that we whittled our way there and we're still going to be able to pay for enforcement. And I'll get to that part in a little bit. So I really like, so just to kind of go back to the year round, that's 23.5% of our available downtown parking would be paid parking per, time and space, both considered. Not considering holidays though. So it goes down with holidays. So it's even more free parking. The other thing I want to hit on is phasing and scaling, which we're a big fan of here. I think it's so critical and important that we scale this from small to big, from simple to complex, that we don't overburden staff that's never done this before, that we don't solutionize things because we heard a complaint from someone who hasn't spent their life researching parking. They just woke up one day and heard 100% of Poulsbo is going to be parking, and here's how I feel about it. And yes, it matters, and I want them to have parking, but I don't want us to build complex solutions for problems that we heard come at us. And to that, I would not want to do the good news with higher pricing and lower pricing. There's nothing lower than free. So I'm a big fan of the seasonal. My top options, the 350 revenue. So if you're counting down, that's number 9. So that's the 5-day, 3-hour, 2-day grace. And again, that's only 11.8% of downtown parking per year that's paid. And that is approximately $650 in total user fees, which was close to my $750 guess back there. So now I'm going to move to that portion. This is the best news of all. Paid parking is affordability for our residents. Our residents, that $750 of maintenance to maintain downtown parking and transportation, they would have to pay $57, almost $58 a year. So instead of hitting our residents with more $58 taxes or whatever we'd have to do to figure that out, we can hit our visitors, and I sorely underestimated that, with $6. Or sorry, excuse me, $3.22 for our visitors and that's, it's less. So I'd rather, I talked about my concern with cost burdens and the affordability for our residents. I'm all about spreading the cost burden. If I go visit Leavenworth, I'm super happy to go pay $6 to go enjoy that, knowing that gosh, can you imagine the assault that assaults their asphalt? Anyways, yeah, you heard me. Because that's going to cost money to rebuild all those streets every year. So they have to charge that. I'm happy to pay it. And when people come to downtown Poulsbo and we ask that our 10% of our parking that is paid for and people pay it, and that helps us raise revenue to maintain our downtown and not increase cost to our tax base, I'm all for that. So that's an affordability issue, paid parking. Boom. That's the goal, the success, if you want to nail that one down. And then shuttle and stuff, I love it. I love that we have options now because we have an excess of revenue that's covering our cost, and we can figure out what to do with that revenue. We can explore it and change it. And again, I want to start simple. I want to start small, and then we can build complex as we understand things more and get more data like we've always done. And I really do appreciate that. And that's all I have.
Doug Newell.
He's way too happy at 8:30 at night talking about parking. Holy cow. So try not to put a whole lot of fluff here. This is an economics problem at the end of the day. And I know a lot of people read into this, but the big name out there is Donald Shoup. He was an economics kind of guy. He was an economist. And he was looking into pricing scarce resources. And the number he used is when we get above 85%, we should price parking to be able to create shift demand. In our instance, or in most people's instance, that shift of demand is either to another location or to another transportation alternative. A shuttle could be that transportation alternative, which is positive. Location is the one I'm most worried about. Do I come downtown to get a cup of coffee at Hot Shots and pay, or do I go to Chocmo and not? And especially in the off season, it's very easy for me to say, all right, I'm just going to go to a different location, and that's the conversation. it would act as it's designed. Paying for parking is going to shift behavior. I mean, that's why we're doing this. It's really to shift behavior. The question is it the behavior that we want to occur? When our parking lots are not full like they are, I mean, yesterday was a beautiful sunny day. I was surprised how empty downtown was. I'm not certain why. Today I didn't look, but in that standpoint, what do we do? So I'm going to go a little bit different than what you might have thought I was leaning towards all through this. Parkway, the two parking lots are the simple ones to do. I could go back and forth about King Olaf, in or out on that. From standpoint of days of the week, the problem we have is Saturdays, followed by Sundays. And so if we are actually trying to adjust the days of the week, it's really those 2 days. And it's Saturdays almost year round. It's Sundays in the summer, it's Fridays in the summer, but the rest of the time we're not. That gets hard, back to what you're describing. So this may sound like 180, but hold in there. I could actually go with 7 days a week with a 2-hour grace period so that it's consistent. We know what to come into. We're coming down here. We know it's 2 hours. We pull a ticket at the 2-hour mark. If we're still here, the app says, hey, it's time for you to start paying. Hourly rate, I think we match the other parking lots downtown, just back to the simplicity. It's $3 to park. I agree with the employee parking at $10. And I think one of the reasons, back to the 7 days a week, let's say we had 2 days grace, the employee parking, the employees would absolutely know what those 2 days are. I think our residents and certainly our visitors would be like, is today one of those free days or not? The employees would figure it out, and they would figure it out by the third week.
Can I just
Yeah.
add to, so it would be a day that you wouldn't have to pay, but there still would be time limits. That, so there would still be enforcement.
Oh, well, thank you for saying that out loud. I thought part of what we were trying to do is resolve the fact that some people wanted to stay longer. Longer than the 2 hours, longer than the 3 hours. They wanted to be able to pay to go to the salon, to do something at Sons of Norway, to go to their boat, to whatever. And so if we go into, hey, it's 2 hours above that, you can stay as long as you want. You just pay your $3 an hour.
So, which works really well. I mean, if it's 7 days a week, but when you do just, if you don't pay and you don't enforce on those days or don't have time limits, then there is no system. It's a free for all those 2 days. So anybody and everybody could.
Yeah. So
that's the downside.
Appreciate your thoughts on that standpoint. I'm just saying that where I'm at right now is how to make this simpler to do. Back to the slide, Heather, that you showed about 100% loss. Basically, what I'm seeing out of Placer AI is that 22% of the people are staying more than 2 hours downtown right now. The Walker study, and I don't have it in front of me, but the Walker study, I think 10 or 11% were above 3 hours. It was something along the lines of between 80 and 90% were under 3 hours, i.e. they were within our enforcement limit. And depending on which, it was the midweek or the weekend, it was 10 to 20% were longer than that. And so I don't personally believe that a 2-hour grace, you're going to lose 100%. I think there are people that want to stay here longer. That being said, you know, the biggest thing and then the last thing on the, how do we solve our demand problem? We have variable demand. So I strongly believe the solution's variable. To me, parking lots and parking garages are static. We don't have static demand. We have demand, high demand, 80 to 90 days a year. And so we should develop solutions that match that demand. To me, that's shuttle buses.
Seasonal?
Seasonal, but it gets back into the seasonal transportation. Yes. You wouldn't need transportation on a rainy day like today. Good point. Sorry. Thank you.
And Doug, quick clarification. You used the word variable. Did you mean that in the technical sense of variable pricing? You don't want a flat rate?
No, I 2 hours grace, 3 hours after that. The solution to provide capacity, good clarification. We have very little demand. And so those weekends that we have a lot of business, we need extra capacity. But we don't need extra capacity today, yesterday. And so to me, a bus can be turned on and off, can be turned on Friday through Saturday. A garage can't be turned off. A parking lot can't be turned off from that standpoint of, and they're longer to pull one into place. We could have shuttle bus by, Black Friday probably, which is a busy day.
Pam, are you ready?
All right, I see that it's 8:36 for the record. I'm willing to vote to go past 9, but I'll try and be as concise as I can. So I do have a question. I'm gonna throw a wrench in there. If I understand correctly, say we did a 4-day model of Thursday through Sunday, am I to understand the concern would be that Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, like you said, it would be a free-for-all? And, there would be just that impact on those who visit, as well as the employees and the business owners. Employee parking wouldn't be used. I just want to, was that a concern? If,
I would not say that was necessarily a concern.
okay,
That model just wasn't ran.
okay,
It seemed that was mentioned, but there was more support around 1 or 2 days of grace.
okay. As
But
opposed to like 4 days, the 4-day model.
correct. So that scenario just wasn't ran.
Okay,
Mhm.
well, I'm gonna throw that wrench in there.
Okay.
Okay, the 4-day. But please let me know. I'm very much open to hearing the concerns if that model was ran. As far as the location, I do like the idea of the lots. With consideration for street and having 30-minute, couple of, 30-minute spots for free, and we are still keeping and moving forward to the paid model. We're in the interim, we're still keeping parking enforcement in place, correct? Okay, just making sure. I put the remote in the fridge and I looked all over for it, so I'm gonna tell you where my mind is at. So I'm just making sure. Wow. Yeah, yes, I shared that. TMI. And I watched a program I did not want to watch for a long time. So thank goodness I got thirsty. Anyways, so I'm just trying to make sure I follow. So, okay, so in reference to employee parking, the lots, I do like to advocate for free. However, with what you just shared of the incentive of business owners to basically notify of those who are no longer employees, I can see that. And so I'm open to $10. But if there was a way to look at the process for business owners to share who is still employed or not, especially if they have folks that return, that would be great if it was free. So the other piece also is the hourly rate. It would be great if it was $2 or less. And before I forget, if I like what somebody shared, to start small and scale up. We can always build on this and scale up. The only thing is that I'm still amazed with the fact that folks think it's everything. All parking is going to be paid when it's not all of the spaces. So the other piece is location. The grace, I'm kind of divided about that because it's almost like human behavior. How is that going to work? There's always loopholes. It would be great if we're talking grace for hourly, if I understand correctly. It would be great if it was 30 minutes. But we're also talking grace regarding days. But I think, yeah,
Correct. So if you
Yes.
have an opinion on either or, if,
Mhm.
do you prefer days? Do you prefer hourly? Or do you prefer both?
Mm.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to think of what I would do. I would totally take advantage of some stuff. So, all right. So maybe I shouldn't say that out loud, but I did. But anyways, yes, it is. Regarding the succession planning, I'm going to skip some stuff. Regarding succession planning, I do have concerns about the shuttle. Will folks use it? Would it be great to implement a shuttle during, for events? Like when everybody parks down at the old Rite Aid and they're and how many shuttles? I was in a small town. There was a strawberry festival. Evidently is very popular. And they had like 6 school buses that were taking folks, and that was the shuttle. And it was a pleasant experience because they had 6. You weren't waiting for long. So if we did a shuttle, how long is someone going to be waiting? And if they're waiting to ride the shuttle, hopefully, they'll use it. Is there going to be that discouragement of, well, I might as well just bring my car and, so, and park at the library and take up the library parking and, yeah. Anyways, I'm going to stop right there. I have more thoughts, but also a succession planning, if there was consideration for a, yearly amount that seniors paid, that would be a discount. That would be awesome. Yeah. So I'll stop right there.
Rick, are you ready?
I'm ready. All right, I'll just start with the first added blue was me. So that's where I start on all the topics. Under Anderson year round. So I agree with Anderson only. We had always talked Front Street, but I think the idea of leaving Front Street at 1 hour works because that give all the folks that say, what about if I want to make a quick trip? Well, Front Street's 1 hour. So for as long as we're enforcing the 1 hour, that should help with the short term. And to remind, we have several 15-minute spots already that are supposed to be the pull in, run in, grab your donut, coffee, run out and leave. So we have a couple of those already. We could always look at expanding those or shifting them to a new place if that was but leaving Front Street not paid works for me. Not King Olaf. We've always talked about King Olaf being the place you don't pay. So I don't want to go there. That I feel like that's backtracking on what we've said before. I like 6 days and a 1 day grace. I don't like the idea of an hour-long grace of hourly because as I discovered, we are not enforcing overnight anymore. That was not something I think that we were all necessarily on the same page on. But with like right now, with a 3 hour in Anderson, you could park your car at 6:01 and leave your car there for 19 hours because you get 3 hours into the paid or the time limit. So with a grace period, we're just getting into that same idea where you park it at the end of at 6 o'clock and you go all the way around the clock and then the next day. It's too complicated. Folks are going to abuse it. I would just rather Tuesday, if that's the day. Tuesday's the grace day. Locals know it. If you have you want to go get your hair done and you need 4 hours, and you're willing to pay, you pay. If you don't want to pay, you schedule it for the other. People have flexibility. If you don't want to pay, you have a day where it's just timed. If you need more time, you can pay. I think 1 day grace, 6 day paid is the best, most flexible choice to do that. I had suggested, 3 hours in the on season, 1 hour off. I think $3 an hour equitable with our peer parking lots. I don't think undercutting the port or the aquarium is a good idea. It doesn't make good neighbors. I think staying peer with them is a good idea. But if we go to $1 in the winter, I think it's an easier transition for people. Then there's no pay, then there's pay. You don't have to remember when that turns on and off. It's just the price changes. So I just think that's an easier transition. And I think if you look at the total amount that Heather estimated for what that produces and the amount a shuttle could produce, basically $1 through the off season pays for a shuttle. So that lets us offer that service. I agree with the idea of $10 a month for the employees because of it helps with the enforcement or with the managing the system. And if this produces enough revenue, we could always look at some kind of validation back. The employers come to the city and they can get validated back. We said we were going to keep this money into the downtown. So that's an option to keep it in the downtown. How we use the money once it's raised, we have those options. So if business owners come to us and say, this is really hurting us financially while we're trying to manage the situation, we can look at, okay, if your bill is $200 for your employee passes, we'll compensate $100 out of the revenue. We could talk about that later, but we have, as Doug put it, once we do this, we have options. We don't have options until we do it. What did I miss? Hourly rate play success. That's the other one I didn't answer. Okay. All right. When it comes to success, there is no solution we're going to come up with that's going to make everybody happy. No matter what we do, someone's going to not like it. So I don't think, I said this to Michael, I think success is going to come down to more of it's an art than not a science. There's going to be no data point we're ever going to come up with that's going to prove success or failure. So I am going to trust, I'm going to assume grace and positive intent on the council and the mayor and the staff. And that if we get to a point where this is not working, we are honest, we are earnest, we will fix it. If it is working and it's producing what we want and the way we want, or maybe not exactly the way we want, and we're going to adjust. So I'm going to assume positive intent and that we'll get there. And I don't know what that is. I'm not going to claim I do. I'm going to say I'll know it when I see it. And so, and then lastly, I think a shuttle helps us, and that's part of our success. So I support the staff investigating a shuttle. I threw out my one thing earlier already. I think it could help with the seniors. And I think it helps with the idea that we are not just focusing on downtown if we have the shuttle start at Viking, because then we are spreading this to other parts of the city, which I think is an obligation we should be serious about as well.
Thank you for being patient, Gary.
No problem. All right. Thank you to my colleagues for all your thoughts. All right, sorry, I'm losing my voice here. I think we have a seasonal parking challenge, and I think it deserves and requires a seasonal solution. I could live with another scenario, but I think looking at the numbers, and this, for what it's worth, this is really where the new data we have now. I was interested in a seasonal option early on, but the consultant really steered us away from that for a few reasons. One, they were concerned about consistency. Two, they were concerned it might not capture enough revenue to cover enforcement and to generate some additional resources to invest in capacity. But now we have better numbers, we have better data. It appears to me if our numbers are pretty close to correct, we can implement a seasonal solution. And I agree with Mr. Newell that it doesn't look good to have be charging people for empty parking lots in the off season. I think that would not be a good look for us. So I am agreeing with, as I understand it, Ms. Livedall and Mr. Tabor. And my favored choice would be number 6, the 5-day paid $3 an hour to match our neighbors, to Rick's point, being good neighbors. With a 2-day grace period, I would prefer the grace period to be Tuesday and Wednesday, which would generate some new resources in the range of about $350,000 a year for us to invest in better transportation in and out of downtown and additional parking capacity. I am supportive of continuing. To Britt's point, all along, for many of us, this has been a hybrid approach. 60% of the spaces are free, 40% are paid. And that actually changes now a little bit. There's going to be fewer paid because I am supportive of just focusing the paid parking seasonally in Anderson Parkway. I very much like the idea of limiting it to just Anderson Parkway and keeping the on-street spots on Front Street and Jensen Street 1 hour free. I will not support King Olaf, no. King Olaf, no. It's limited to Anderson Parkway at this point, in my mind. The one thing I will not support is an hourly grace period. We heard consistently from the consultant that that's not a good idea because you end up and remember we spent tens of thousands of dollars to bring these people in. This is what they do nationally. They told us that what we've seen in other communities, if you offer a 1 or a 2 hour grace period, people try and hurry around running their errands or getting their sandwich or whatever. They get back and oftentimes they're 5 minutes past the grace period, 10 minutes past the grace period, and they've got a $60 ticket there. What sort of a relationship do you think that creates with that customer, that community member? So I will not support an hourly grace period. That's really kind of the one line in the sand I'm drawing. I'd much prefer the day-long grace period. To Heather's earlier point, I think the 1 or 2 day grace period during the week really allows our downtown businesses to do some more economic development, to advertise some specials, and to help. I think it could be a real advantage to turning what are slow days during the week into more profitable days for our businesses. What am I forgetting? The hourly rate. Yeah, I guess I did cover that. $3 an hour. And, and again, $3 an hour. Remember, 6 months of the year, it's going to be free. And we've got 2 days of grace period. Okay. So, all right, yes, you're going to pay $3 an hour if you're coming on the prime days during the summertime in the best parking lot in town. Okay. And there's lots of other free options if you choose not to do that. In terms of success, I'm sorry.
Employee.
Oh, employee. I definitely agree on the $10 per month. Not that we necessarily need that revenue, but it's really the best, I think, and only way to keep the logs clean and to know that we're actually providing free parking to employees who are actually still working downtown.
Can I just add one thing on that employee thing? I really feel like it needs to be clarified that this fee is being passed on to employers.
Right.
And how they choose to pass it along is up to them. We as the city are not saying that every employee should be charged that.
Yeah.
I guess that's my opinion, but I'm wondering if we have some concurrence about that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks.
But that we're charging the employers who put their employees into the system.
And I think the one other question I haven't answered is success. I support the shuttle concept. I think a summer shuttle on the weekends is well worth trying. As Heather pointed out in her advance memo, the shuttle service, the summer shuttle, was also recommended in 2 previous parking studies that we did over the years. So I think that's, that's for me kind of a no-brainer. I think the other success that we need to continue to pursue is leasing of additional parking spaces that are already built. First Lutheran Church. I know we've been working to try to secure some spots at First National or Bank of America, for instance. So I am not a fan of a parking structure, maybe 10 years from now, whatever. I just think there's too many options at a lower cost. And to Doug's point, we need flexibility. Parking ramps are a fixed cost. They don't change. So I think the shuttle and continuing to lease additional parking that's already constructed, that's in the downtown area, makes a great deal of sense. And then I also will just remind us, I think, we all, I think it was Michael, previous meeting asked how, how we can measure success. We have a definitive way and lots of history over sales revenue generated downtown and sales tax paid downtown. We set a benchmark of what it is before these changes, and we monitor it and see how that's doing. We've talked in the past about this money is going to stay downtown. I encouraged Denver Smythe, the president of HDPA, to have a quarterly meeting with Deb Boer, our finance director, come in and look at the account, see what money is there, see how it's being used. I'm committed to that, and I think we all are. Did I answer all the questions?
Let me try this. It's 5 minutes to 9. Let's give Rob and Heather a chance to try to synthesize some commonalities or not.
That would be fantastic. Yes, thank you.
I'd be happy to make a motion to extend up until 9:30. Would that be appropriate?
I have a motion to extend. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Go ahead, Heather.
Okay. I'm going to give the ranges and then say where I think there's consensus, but I do want to also allow Rob to chime in. So days of payment range from 4 days to 7 days, and the 7-day would only be if there was 2 hours of grace. There was some that said 5 or 6 or 5. So if I culminate all those together, it seemed that there was more in favor of 6 days of payment, which would result in 1 day of grace if I were to add all of the responses together. The hourly rates fluctuates between, there was an interest in seasonal rates. There was an expression for 1 to the maximum of 3. There was 2 for 3 hours. $3 an hour was seasonal, only during the seasonal peak period. And there was also 2 for $3 an hour year round, with the 1 in the winter. So I'm going to need a little bit more clarity around that. In terms of location, there was consensus around Anderson Parkway. I think everyone's in agreement there, which is great. Employee parking, overwhelmingly there was support over the $10 a month. Of course, if free would be possible, that would be great. And then more exclusive lots was expressed. And then success varied between continuing to monitor. Sales tax was last mentioned. Is that how we define success? That we keep our sales tax numbers the same or they improve ideally? Structure was mentioned, covering the costs of enforcement, senior discount, and creation of more spaces. But overwhelmingly, the shuttle, there was support to explore the shuttle. And what that looks like, we will continue to discuss. Is that just limited to the summer or not? So I think the last piece that we really need clarity on, I think that $3 an hour is expressed with the greatest support. But if council could culminate one more time, is this going to be a year-round system of paid parking or a seasonal system of paid parking? I feel that is the one that I don't have enough consensus on, because there was enough people that didn't limit
Do you
their.
want Heather to finish, or do you want to interrupt with questions,
Please,
council?
Please, I'm done. That's all I
She's
needed.
asking, but
Okay, Michael.
Well,
Go ahead, Britt.
I think my one concern around seasonal is how do we handle the challenge of the time limitations for the people who've expressed that they operate a business where people would like the option to stay longer if we're only charging for part of the year. So that's like my one hesitation is paid parking in the off season completely turned off, or could you pay if you wanted to exceed I don't know. I mean, that's getting really into the weeds, but that's just my concern is yeah, same on the grace days.
Yeah.
So but otherwise I would really like to start seasonally and go from there.
same.
Yeah, same.
3 for wanting seasonal payment
Well-
only, but also for us to explore so we know the option to stay longer are available in the Western Washington Sea Discovery lot. So I just want to remind the community, the port offers that as well. And then we have 2 private lots that are providing extended stay paid options. I'm just mentioning that because sometimes, and we could continue to offer the $10 special event. That's something too that
Okay.
could be retained.
Yeah, it was kind of the senior center and people with maybe
Talk, or are you gonna,
mobility limitations is
just
like.
trying to figure out the process here, sir?
Let me say one thing and then I'll just get off here. So the reason why I think I was closer to Rick's proposal here of $3 in the high season, $1 in the low season is precisely because the biggest concern with the enforcement model is there's no flexibility from the city's own spaces. Now, I understand what you're saying is, okay, maybe we need more signage to direct people to the private paid lots to solve that problem. And maybe that could work. But I think we need to have a real clear policy of, it's just, I can see some real whiplash for people who think they can come down here as long as they want. And now suddenly, last week they could pay to be there as long as they want. But now it's October 22nd and all of a sudden they're getting a ticket for being there over 3 hours. That feels problematic to me. That's why I was more in favor of year-round seasonal pricing as opposed to just going free in the off season. But I'm happy to go either way. I want some kind of seasonal consideration. So this is not a hill to die on for me.
Go the other way.
Doug? No, so Heather, I think you've heard us with concerns. If you could noodle on that one, it really gets into that variability because you've been coming in for the past couple of months saying there is recurring demand to stay more than 3 hours. How do we address that? Something we didn't talk about tonight is our residents, those that actually live inside the city of Poulsbo. Previously, it brought up the concept of, or at least question of, do they get to park for free? Kind of at a high level, I'm thinking about 20% of the visits to downtown are coming out of people that actually live inside the city, maybe 25%. It's surprisingly low, but I would suggest probably all of our shopping centers are the same way, just because we're supporting. The reason I'm belaboring this a little bit is that our citizens already pay a slightly higher sales or property tax than if you live right outside the border. The county's property tax is slightly lower. If you live outside the border, most likely you're not paying to the Port of Poulsbo on property tax. Our property tax collection is budgeted at 3.3 million for this year. Looking at Deb because I'm pulling it off documents. But we have another tax that we don't talk about. The fact that our utility tax on those people that own residences inside the city is budgeted at over 2.9 million. So we've got property tax at 3.3, we got utility tax at 2.9. If you live outside, just one parcel outside the city district, you don't have those pieces. And so, oh, by the way, we have a transportation benefit district. And so our residents pay significantly higher burden locally than the people that live just a parcel or two outside of our city limits. And should there be consideration because they're already in that heavy lift? I know it come up before about, hey, does somebody that lives inside get an exemption? Don't know where you guys are in thinking of that. Thanks.
Rick? It's against what Doug, would you say? It's a consideration. It's why I voted against raising property taxes. I think the burden on our residents is high. One of the reasons I liked this paid parking conversation from the very beginning is to try to get more visitors to contribute to the coffer than residents. But yeah, Michael, one of the reasons, like what you were saying, one of the reasons I suggested the $1 in the off season is rather than the $3 limit, if somebody wants to pay $8 for an all day to park all day, which is essentially what you could do, it's cheaper than a $10 event pass. Our staff doesn't have to worry about coming up with an all day pass that's not tied to events. You know, if you want to get your hair done for 5 hours and then have lunch and then shop, you can pay $8, which is covers you the whole day, and you're done. And you're done. And again, and same with on a locals grace day. You know, we could do that, but we went with the grace. But I think the 1 day grace or 2 day grace, if we go that way, but 1 day grace, yeah, it does incentivize locals. Because I've heard plenty of times people say, I don't go downtown, there's nothing for me. People that live here. And I mean, really, they say, I don't go downtown, there's nothing for me. It's all stuff for the tourists. So it's not true, but again, perception's reality. If we had something that encouraged the businesses to pull the locals down there on a day that like that, I think that's great for a lot of different reasons. So I really prefer that, but I'm not going to die on that hill. And again, I think the year round, it helps us with the revenue because while we don't want to build a parking garage next week or next month, it's going to take us 10 years to accumulate the funds to do it. And if we have a parking garage that's built and there's part of the year it's not used, it's going to be the cold, rainy part of the year. And that could become an event space to hold special events in that's now covered. So we could find uses for a parking garage in the off season if we had it, that when the parking isn't really going to be useful, we could use it for other things. So
Gary, then Pam.
Yeah, thanks. You know, it's been a good discussion. I think it's pretty clear to me that we've got at least, I think, if Rick will agree, 4 of us that agree on one of these options. I'm prepared. I think we might need to sort of, I've heard Britt, I've heard Councilmember Tabor, and I'm hoping Councilmember Eckert will agree, because since 3 of the 4 of us do agree on option number 6, the 5-day paid, $3 an hour, 2-day grace period, seasonally, Anderson Parkway.
I think I'd have said more 6 days, 5, right?
Say that again?
Gary, anything else? Gary has the mic.
I just question, I thought Heather said more people said 6 days than 5.
I'm just, what I'm doing here, Rich, is I'm counting the preferences for the members of this council. I know we're prepared to move forward.
Yeah, I thought that's.
Okay. And so you're saying you would support seasonal 6-day paid, $3 an hour, 1-day grace. Is that
I
correct?
think it sounded like where most of us were, it was only the question of year round or seasonal. Seemed to be the one that was
Okay.
hanging.
Will you support that, Britt? Will you support that, Doug?
You said
So,
seasonal.
yeah, so-
Reiterate, Gary, one more time what you said.
Seasonal,
Mhm.
6-day paid. It's number 7 if you count down.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
6-day paid, $3 an hour. 1-day grace period.
Yes.
Okay.
I
If we have 4 of us that agree on that,
Then
I think we should move forward.
Let's give the mic to Pam.
In agreement with that, but not if we're doing this June 1st. Dang it.
Yeah.
We can't roll back on that.
So,
If it's possible, June 1st.
yeah, it's the June 1st
That's
was
the
if
goal.
possible.
Well, no, I don't mind that plan, but that's right around the corner.
Yeah, but that was the vote we took. I mean, that was the
But
last time.
I miss it. Okay, then
Well, it
I
wasn't
did not
this-
capture that. I thought that there was some flexibility with the start date.
Well, if
I'm
it's
not-
not, if we're talking about seasonal though, and it's not this summer, then it's next summer. And we distinctly voted against that.
Britt, did you want to elaborate?
Not really. I mean, I think if we've coalesced around that, we can quibble over 5 days or 6 days or seasonal or not, but I think there's 4 of us that agree that that's a starting point.
So there appears to be a consensus forming with a majority of the council. Does anybody want to speak to that who hasn't?
I mean, I
So
just,
let's turn back to Rob and Heather, and can you repeat what it is you've heard?
So what we've heard is a 6-day paid period with 1 day of grace at $3 an hour, limited to the Anderson Parkway, beginning April 15th each calendar year and commencing on October 15th each calendar year, with $10 of employee parking, and for staff to continue to explore the success options, specifically looking into shuttle for use of the revenue. And there's also been repeated expression with this model of how do we accommodate special groups that want to stay longer in the off season. So I think that's something we're going to need to continue to refine. And that could be for specific groups and also special events.
Can we try a first cut on thumbs up, thumbs down? I'm seeing a consensus of the council. Does Rob and Heather, are you perceiving it that way? And do you have enough information to form it up?
I think we do. So what I'm struggling with at the moment is just trying to, it's really focusing on simplicity, thinking of how is the program simple? How can we simply convey it to the public? How can we manage it? How can we simply try to address it? Because what we've learned over the past several months is that we have a system of a bunch of one-offs. We have come up with, every time we come up with an obstacle or a concern, we end up having to be very creative and we come up with a solution. But all those different solutions end up working at odds with each other. And so we can take that away, but my gut, it kind of tells me something else.
Is there a specific piece of that you think mostly contributes to the complexity that we've best to change, or is it all encompassing? Or
honestly, I think that on some level, not looking behind my head, there is trying to address the concerns of folks that we've heard who need the flexibility of being able to stay longer for an appointment, this and that, to do a seasonality, turn it on, turn it off, ends up adding a level of complexity that is difficult to manage. And so I think seasonality and price could be easier to communicate that. So it kind of, I think it gets back to, I don't know if Doug, you were talking about that, but just saying that there's a way to sort of in the off season lessen it, but because you're still providing people an option to pay and not worry about the stay.
Yeah. Doug Tabor.
So of the people who are here, I think we're all okay if we just jump up to the first blue line. That's the non-seasonal, assuming that April 15th to October 15th, it's $1 an hour, right? So thumbs up on that, Gary, Rick. Recrafting it.
No,
so okay. So just repeat, going back up to that first blue line, that would be 3 hours for peak, which is summer, and then $1 for April 15th to October 15th. Do we feel good with that?
Right. So $3 from April 15 to October 15.
Yeah.
$1 from October 16 to April 14.
Yeah.
Now we got Michael.
That's what yes.
Michael?
I'm good. I mean, that's what Rob just articulated is what I was struggling to say earlier is I think people like consistency and they like choice. And I think this makes it so that year round, they can expect the same kind of program. The only difference is we're accounting for demand in the off season.
So back to Rob and Heather, do you guys feel you have enough to bring a rough draft of this quote consensus to the April 8th workshop meeting here?
April 15th.
you don't want to work this on April the 8th.
Heather is not available
Oh,
next week.
excuse me. And
Delayed gratification, and next week is our workshop and not the time, there's no business.
the April 15th, you see it on the business agenda as a cut or just workshop?
Business agenda.
Did everybody hear that? We're aiming for April 15th,
Yes.
first cut business
Because we
agenda,
know we have to
which is
vote on
an
this.
action item.
We all need to be here to vote.
Not consent.
Is there anything else regarding the parking program before we move on toward closure?
Yes,
Is there anything else you need from us in order
I
to move
want
to
to
that
clarify
point?
that you have enough to create a motion for us to pass.
I believe so. Yes.
I do have one comment, Mayor.
Go ahead, Gary.
I just, I think, that, there's got to be a way with, QR codes to be able to offer anybody who wants to pay to stay longer past our posted time limits of 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever, that we can give them an all-day price option. It doesn't have to be limited to just events, I don't think. So I think there's a solution to some of Rob's concerns about that. The people who, and that really was one of the surprising things that's come out of the open houses is how many people want to pay extra to stay longer. That was really, for me, that was kind of eye-opening. So we need to be able to provide that to people.
So you're saying in whatever system we come up with for pay, on days you wouldn't normally pay, you would have the option to buy an all-day pass, essentially.
I think you have the option to buy an all-day pass anytime you want.
And
Why can't you do that?
And to be clear, so you're talking about outside of Anderson Parkway to open up that ability
Yes.
any time of the year if we
Yes.
need.
Thank you for
That-
clarifying.
Okay, just, yes,
Yes,
so we can
yes.
add that as a QR code.
Yeah, I think our customers would like that. For big events like Viking Fest, et cetera, they would we shouldn't limit that just to Anderson Parkway on those kinds of events. All right. Thank you.
Any other inputs? I'm not seeing any. Rob or Heather, any last clarification you need on this rough draft notes? We're going to move on. We're moving on to questions and concerns of the council not regarding parking.
Thank you, guys. Of course, thank you.
Not seeing any. Future agenda items, that's in your packet from the city clerk. Anything to add? Future agenda items? I don't think so. We're going to go to continued public comment as we promised. And if you have any public comment, please come to the podium. You'll have 3 minutes. Please state your name and place of residence. Thank you, John. That's fine. You're good.
Is this on? Joey Solar, Poulsbo here. I just want to say, Gary, I really like the option of people being able to buy an all-day pass at any time. What I hear a lot from our clients downtown or even from our community members, if they have family coming in out of town and they want to spend more than 4 hours down here, it becomes a real hardship for them and we just don't come. People will just not come here. And then lastly, I just wanted to also address to you the age groups on these children entrepreneur fairs, 6 years old to 14 years old for the children and 14 to 17, because there's also one called the Founders Fair, which we haven't talked about. So we are getting the kids from a very young age up to that age. Matchstick and Vibe can also handle the in between. The one place that we're also trying to look at are these businesses that are failing and they can't sell. Maybe they're getting distributions out of their funds too often and they hit a crisis point and they're just failing. So we'd like to take a look at not only the nurturing through that system and the ecosystems that are there, but what point can we capture people that are really going to fail? I mean, they are taking all their money out of their accounts. They're having a difficult time and they are losing their homes. They are losing their business, closing them down. It doesn't look good for Poulsbo either, but they're failing. So we want to kind of have some kind of a first aid, something for those people, all people at the end of it. So thank you.
Thank you. Calling for public comment. And I'll call one last time. Public comment. And not seeing any, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Before we do, I have one last
Please.
council members' comments. Just since Josh is still in the room, we didn't get to this conversation, but it's something that Heather and many of us have talked about offline. In addition to expanding parking capacity in our resolution from last year, we also talked about increasing safety features, especially lighting in the downtown area. That is a short-term goal that we should be thinking about using those funds for paid parking to do quickly and put a big old sign on it that says your paid parking program paid for this. So
Especially with employees walking.
With employees walking, that's been the number one complaint.
Yeah.
We talked about shuttles and parking garages tonight, but we should also be doing something that's short-term, actionable, and very, very visible.
If I can chime in for just a quick second on that comment. If you guys go up Jensen Way across from the Chamber of Commerce, we just replaced the lights with LED in one of them, and we're starting to phase those in. So they really brighten that up. So as we're painting the light poles and refreshing them, we're taking the big ugly round globe off of them, and they're going to be just LED lights, and they're really nice and bright. So check it out, see what you think.
Thank you, Michael. And
Yeah.
any other council comments? Rick?
Remind everybody the farmers market's open again. Opening weekend was last weekend. Ed cut the ribbon. So.
And thank you for being there, Rick. Any other comment from the city council? I'll go back. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Third.
And all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. We stand adjourned at 9:21.